Okay, so my name is Kosi, and I'm a direct path Advaita Vedanta teacher, which basically means that I'm a non-dual teacher in the teaching and lineage of Sri Ramana Maharshi, who is a very well-known Indian saint and teacher from southern India.
Let's talk about like Prague or what you have just gone through.
Okay. All right, so I was first invited to Prague in October of last year in 2013. And what I recognized is that many people had heard of different teachings. They'd heard of Muji, they'd heard of other teachers and that are representing Ramana and the process of self-discovery and self-inquiry. And what I noticed when I got here is that there was this ongoing entanglement with the negative aspect of mind, whether it's spiritual seeking or it's the egoic or genetic mind. And so what I do is work with people, and we've been working with people here in Prague to shift their relationship with their mind so they can see what's free underneath, which is pure happiness and freedom. And the transformation that I've seen in those people that really can receive this teaching, which is very potent, very direct, there's a powerful energy associated with it, is a profound transformation that you can actually see on people's face, a kind of opening, like an expansion, as they start to recognize that they're not their past, they're not the future, and they recognize this living freedom in their own heart.
What about Prague and people here?
Oh, in Prague, this is a beautiful place. The energy of Prague is opens the heart naturally. It's a very grounding energy. But the thing I've noticed the most about Prague is the silence. So I've been to many cities around the world, but here in Prague there is a visceral silence. You can actually feel the silence. And in certain buildings, like we were in a small church today meditating, as a small group of us meditated, and the silence in that room was palpable. You could actually feel it. And so that's pervasive here in the Czech Republic, not just the energy that opens the heart and grounds you, but there's this silence that's pervasive.
What about people you worked with?
Well, the people are like people that I discover everywhere. So they might be from the Czech Republic, but people in Dublin, people in Lausanne, Switzerland, or the United States, or the Philippines, these are all places I've been. And regardless of the culture, the primary nature of suffering is your relationship with your mind in correlation with your circumstances. So it's not like the people of Prague are unique, but I would say that this teaching is very new to Prague. Even though people have heard about Ramana, they haven't had the opportunity, or they haven't had very many opportunities to work with someone that has years of experience with self-inquiry, which is the primary teaching of Ramana, is silence and self-inquiry. And primarily what I do is work with people to inquire, to open their mind, to discover what's deeper than the mind, right? What's free of the mind. So the suffering nature of what people are experiencing here is very similar to the rest of the world. The thing that's unique to Prague, coming from America, coming from teaching in Europe, is probably a deep sense of sadness or despair, maybe going back to the Soviet rule. And this is just my perspective, that there's kind of this pervasive feeling of hopelessness and despair, which is very unique to Prague. There's a tendency to be shy about sharing. So satsang is an open meeting, so anyone can come from any walk of life, or even from outside of Prague, whoever happens to be here. And I work very intimately with them. And part of what happens is a release of negative energy. And And there's the bell. So it's a release of negative energy, negative emotions, and satsang just naturally releases that, and that can be very intimate. And it's not something that people are used to doing, is first of all telling the truth about what they feel, being authentic about it. And then the expression of that can be sadness. It's usually sadness or some form of sadness, but it can also be anger and frustration. Whatever the emotion is, inquiry welcomes that and explores what's deeper than that and what's always free of that. And the relief that people experience, especially here in Prague, is huge, because when they're willing to inquire, it breaks the heart open. Not everybody's willing to inquire. They might come up to speak with me and then suddenly find themselves kind of frozen or too afraid to say what it is that's really bothering them. But it's sacred space, and I spend time explaining that it's just a natural part of this particular teaching, is to not talk about, it's not just about talking about the emotions, it's about examining the emotions and releasing that, so that you can directly experience the happiness of your true nature. So that's the essence of what we're doing, is pointing to that which is eternally happy, that which is free of the circumstances in our life, but also free of death. So it's recognizing your eternal nature. That's the essence. But it's very intimate, and it can be scary to meet what you've been avoiding all your life. It can be scary to look at the sadness or the cultural despair that might be left over from the Soviet Union, or maybe even World War II. I don't know what it is, but there's definitely that feeling here in Prague that there's this kind of this overriding despair and a kind of shyness, a fear of talking about what you actually feel. But it's in that willingness to honestly talk about what you're feeling, that you have this opportunity to release it. So it's about seeing it, recognizing it, and seeing what's always here, what's always deeper.
Would there be some message from you to people who went through your teachings recently?
Well, the message for the people that have already come to satsang is, once you've had that opening and that deep taste of the living happiness that I'm talking about, it takes a certain vigilance and resolve, so that when those negative patterns or old emotions or the strong tendency to visit the past come up, that you can stop and open and examine. And one of the things that we've talked about that haven't been formalized yet is having a ongoing live webcast, so that the teachings can continue when I'm not physically here, so that it will be translated in the Czech language. So that way it's not just the physical meeting while I'm here for the people that come to satsang and they want support after I'm gone. There's technology now that enables that to happen. So Alice was one of the translators, and we just talked about it last night, and that she's willing to work with me to provide that service to the people here in the Czech Republic. And in Prague, not just the Czech Republic.
The other way around.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Let's talk about the everyday life.
Okay, so first of all, there's a spiritual myth. And the spiritual myth is, first of all, that there's enlightened people. And second of all, that in order to become enlightened or free, that you need to quit your job and retreat from life and go to a meditation cave. And one of the great messages of Ramana is that you can be free in normal everyday life. You don't have to quit your job, and you don't have to go to a meditation cave. I mean, certainly there's support in silence, and silence is an essential transmission of Ramana. And we begin every meeting, every satsang begins with silence. To honor that teaching is one aspect of that, but it also gives us time to allow our minds to get quiet, because we don't spend a lot of time in today's world just being quiet. So that's the essential transmission is silence. And then we go into the inquiry piece so that they can discover, to actually see how the mind works. We think it's automatic, that we feel something, that our suffering is just part of life and there's nothing we can do about it. But that's because we don't really understand our mind. And so in satsang, we really examine how the mind functions, how the emotions function, how we work with that, and how that we're actually 100% responsible for any negative emotion we experience. We think it's the circumstances or it's the people in our life that are creating our negative reaction, especially if we're angry or sad or whatever. And part of what we look at in satsang is how we create the negative feeling, which requires imagination, what you think it means about you, what you think it means about them, the other people that seem to be causing the reaction, and then looking deeper to see what's free of any reaction. So that's really the essence of what we do, but it does evoke big emotions. And I've seen people literally sobbing and go from sobbing to a direct recognition of this happiness that I'm talking about, and the transformation in their face, even their whole face changes, everything transforms because you've changed your relationship with the mind, the genetic mind and the egoic mind. So the genetic mind is basically in your physical body. You have the genetics of your entire lineage, your grandparents and everyone going back in time is genetically encoded in your body and especially in your brain. And it's that, what I call the genetic mind, that is also something that has to be overcome. But in the context of everyday life, you can inquire when you're washing the dishes, you can inquire at work, you can be a CEO of a corporation, you can be on the spiritual path and have no money and be part of the spiritual subculture if that's what you're choosing to do. But it's not like the spiritual subculture or retreating to the meditation cave makes it easier for you to overcome these very powerful movements of this genetic and egoic mind. And Ramana's teaching is very immediate, very direct, the energy is very powerful, palpable, you can feel it. And just, even if you don't come up to speak with me, people have told me that the energy is just incredible, that it just penetrates, whether they're sitting with me or sitting in the audience. But the message is that you can be free wherever you are, in any circumstance, in an ordinary life. So basically, freedom means that you can live a free, natural life, one that's alive and fresh and not entangled with the dead past and our old emotions and old patterns of behavior. And I'm here to support that. And there's the initial awakening, which just takes a fraction of a second with Ramana's teaching. And then there's the long-term support to actually master the mind. So awakening is to actually recognizing this. And then mastery is what's known as liberation or self-realization. And it's support for that. So the satsang is the initial experience, then we have workshops that enable you to go deeper. And then we also have a program for those people that really feel called to do this work more deeply. It's called the Clearway program that's meeting right now every year in Lausanne, Switzerland, and then somewhere else in Europe. And we've been talking about having that program not this fall, but next fall, here in Prague, to give people an opportunity to experience that as well. So there's many layers of support. Satsang is the initial taste of what this is. The weekend retreats give you more of an opportunity to really explore what's going on, what you're suffering with, and breaking free from that. And then there's the deeper stage is what we're calling the Clearway, where you have really a whole year of support from me, both in person and through technology. And then we're doing the specific online meetings for people here, specifically for people in Prague with Czech translation.
For yourself, what is the most difficult part of the common life, of the everyday situations?
Well, the more you awaken, the more you deepen, nothing is difficult. I mean, it's actually fun, and the experience is one of lasting happiness, but it takes time to get to that deeper realization. So it starts with the initial taste, and then it just takes time to get there. So for me, this process has been a 17-year process. I've spent time with some of the most well-known teachers. I spent time with the Dalai Lama, Sogyo Rinpoche, another lineage from India that began with an avatar called Nityananda. It's more famous. Muktananda was a teacher in that lineage. So in my early stages, I spent time with that lineage. And then I met Gangaji in 2001 and spent 12 years of very concentrated study and practice of self-inquiry, self-discovery. And in that deepening, there's a kind of maturation process that there's a transmission that comes from it that's not tied to the physical body, it's not tied to the identity Kosi. It's the years and years of silent meditation, being in India several times, and I'm going to be teaching in India in 2015. And so the depth of the realization enables this transmission to come through. It's not about me personally, but it's certainly a result of years and years of spiritual practice and the deepest commitment to Ramana Maharshi. It's not really a lineage. I said lineage earlier. Ramana was very against lineages, and the reason was that his teaching takes you directly to the source. So from his perspective, you don't really need a lineage, but I use the word lineage to indicate or honor actually Ramana, because it came from his direct realization and the ability to open your mind to inquire, and it's the immediacy of his teaching. So I would say that Ramana is the source, and by saying lineage, I'm acknowledging that he is the source of this teaching. But I also have the support of a living saint, an avatar, and she's not as well known, even though she's been teaching in Europe and the United States for the past 20 years. And she's very powerful. She's an avatar as well, which means that she was born enlightened, she was born awake. And her mother was a devotee of Ramana, so that's the connection to Ramana. And also her teaching is based in silence and the ancient Vedic practices of the mantra. So part of my teaching is using the mantra, which are these ancient Vedic hymns, as a form of inquiry that is very powerful. It's a transmission that goes beyond the mind. So the mind doesn't even understand the words because it's in the ancient language of India, but it has a vibration that's infused with silence that helps to calm down the mind and open the heart. So there's three aspects of the teaching. It's silence, it's the self-inquiry, which is opening to discover how your mind works, and then it's the mantra, which is this powerful vibration that just naturally opens the heart and allows the mind to go deeper into this realization of happiness. But the good news is, no matter what your life experience is, you can experience the lasting happiness of who you actually are, not who you think you are. And that's what this supports, is an ever deeper discovery of what that means. Because a lot of what I'm pointing to cannot be described with words. So all I can do is point to it and support breaking free of what seems like a barrier. So the mind throws up all kinds of things: images, feelings, past memories, projections, strategies to look good, strategies to survive. And I work with people individually and collectively to break free from that. And the mantra is definitely part of that, which comes from Sri Amma Karunamai. Her support is profound, it's omniscient, and people are here in Prague and other places in Europe that I've been teaching are reporting to me profound, not only transmissions of grace, which means you feel this energy of love, you feel your heart opening, but they're also having dreams of Sri Amma, dreams of Ramana, which is basically the mind processing what was received in satsang, which opens the mind even further and brings you deeper into the heart. Because the essence of everyone is love. The essence of everyone is compassion and kindness. But if your attention is on your mind, your attention is on the negativity that's in mind, the egoic mind, which is fear, sadness, anger. And breaking free from that is giving your attention to the attention itself. What is aware? And that's what I support. And the more I support that, the deeper people naturally go. So it's a natural, effortless process, but it's infinitely deep and immediate. But it's the mountain path because it's so immediate. You have to be willing to meet all those negative emotions that you thought you dealt with, that you went to therapy for and you had it all figured out, or you had your strategies for how you were going to survive and you thought you had a handle on it, and then Ramana comes along and pulls the rug out and those emotions come to the surface so that they can be really released, and those veils of mind that kind of cover or hide this deeper truth of ourselves can be seen through, so they're not actually real. There is no boundary to freedom. The only boundary or barrier to freedom is the belief that there's a barrier. There is no barrier to the truth of who you are. It's all imagined. But it's easy for me to say that and difficult to see this, because not because it's far away or something that you have to do to attain it, but because it's who you are and it's closer than your breath. So it's challenging and it's fun. I mean, sometimes in satsang it's very, very funny, and sometimes it is deadly serious, because some people have been dealing with certain forms of suffering for maybe their entire life. So we could be talking 50 years of suffering, and we're suddenly penetrating that and breaking free of it. So it's a huge release of energy and emotion. So it can be very, very serious, but it can also be very, very funny, because we see the movements of mind and even the search for freedom. We can see how silly it is, because the freedom we're looking for is right here. The happiness we're looking for is in our heart. It's not somewhere else. So we definitely have fun. I mean, people, you can just fall out laughing. And the joy can be so overwhelming that I've been in satsangs where all we do is laugh. We don't even get to the serious stuff, because that's what's present. So it's always about what's present in this moment, not about what happened 10 years ago. Even if it was a profound awakening 10 years ago, it's an immediate realization of what's free of any memory, whether it's a good memory, bad memory, or a future projection. We see what's always here free. And it can be funny, and it can also be very serious and very painful. So basically this teaching is for anyone, but it kind of demands a certain maturity and responsibility and willingness to look at the things that you're avoiding, the things that are uncomfortable, the things that we're not used to doing, which is telling the truth about what we are really afraid of. So it's not for the faint of heart, as Gangaji would often say. It's for someone who really wants to be free and wants the support for that, and they don't want to mess around. They want to get right to the real meat, which is the real thing. It's very potent and powerful teaching. Yeah.
How do you relax? What do you do for yourself?
Relaxing just for me is life itself, because the more your mind relaxes in the heart, it's just effortless. I didn't plan coming to Prague. I mean, certainly the internet enables me to get this message out to many people around the world. But when you surrender to the heart, you just naturally relax wherever you are, because you're not entangled with the circumstances. It's kind of like a child. You're in wonder all the time. It's every moment of your life, you don't know what's going to happen. The mind tricks you into thinking that you know what's going to happen, but the more you realize that you have no clue what's going to happen next, you have no idea, then you relax into the heart, and the whole thing is the play of God, the Leela of God. But it's fun, it's playing, it's natural, it's effortless. You're not entangled with circumstances, so when things happen that are not necessarily good, you just go, wow, I can't believe this is happening. You know, who am I going to meet now? What's going to happen in the next moment? And there's a joy in that, and there's a tremendous freedom in that, because there's no attachment to any particular result. So I have no attachment to any result with this teaching. I'm offering a choice of happiness and freedom, or you can keep doing what you've been doing, which is conditioned patterns of suffering, the genetic mind, and being entangled with that, which is the source of suffering. And so basically, suffering is the pain in life extended over time. And so for me, my whole life is given to this teaching. So every moment of my life is given in service to truth, in service to freedom. And because of that, I have no idea where my life is going next, or where I'll be invited to be teaching next, or who really needs my support. So I'm following the call of the heart, giving my mind to the heart, relaxing my mind in the heart, and offering what's left of this life in service to people to end their suffering, but also to give them the choice of freedom in everyday life, no matter what they're doing or where they are, even in the most horrific circumstances, even when things are really painful in your life. This gives you a second choice, a different choice. And it's a natural relaxation. So you're relaxed because you're not entangled, you're not judging, you have no desire for freedom because freedom is here. You have no desire to get rid of your anger. If anger is here, you're like, oh wow, anger is here. There's the energy of anger, but you're not entangled with it. And it's not a state. So the other myth of enlightenment or freedom is that it's a state of bliss. So this is the thing I hear everywhere I go, in spiritual community especially. I'm looking for nirvana. I'm looking for the state of bliss. I had bliss, but I lost it. I went to a Muji retreat. I had the most profound bliss. But then I went back to my life, and the old patterns started to happen, and I lost the bliss. Well, bliss is a state, and anything that changes is not the truth. And so part of what Ramana reveals is that it's not a state that we're talking about, because the state of happiness changes, the state of sadness changes, the state of anger changes. So we're looking at what is changeless inside of you. So it's not a state, it's what's already free. And when you recognize that it's already free, you don't have to do anything to get it. You don't have to do anything to attain it. You don't have to do anything to find it, because it's not it. It's not an object. It's the subject. It's deeper than your identification. And so it's a natural relaxation. It's just, you're just in joy and wonder, which is what we do when we're children. So it's kind of like a return to innocence, or a return to that childlike wonder that we have when we're 4 or 5 years old. Because when you're 4 and 5, you're not entangled with your past. So as adults, the challenge is to recognize that the past isn't real, and it's not who you are. And the deeper you realize that, then you can return to being 5 and just having fun. It's like, wow, what is going to be here next? What is tomorrow going to bring, if tomorrow even comes? So the more uncomfortable aspect of this teaching is to meet the physical death, which is really the essence of Ramana's awakening. When he was 16, his father had already died, had passed away, and he suddenly realized that he was going to die too. His body was going to die. And he became terrified. And instead of asking for help, he asked the question, who dies? What dies? And it was that inquiry that drove his mind so deeply into his heart that he literally ran away from home and devoted the rest of his life to that realization. And because of that, there was this amazing peace that emanated from him. And the gift of Ramana is that we can discover this for ourselves. You know, it's immediate and you don't have to wait for years of meditation. Now, to master the mind is different. So awakening, instant. But mastery of mind, breaking free of conditioned patterns of behavior, takes time and support. So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, everything that we offer in satsang. But I guess the promise or the good news of this is it's not that you're going to have an extraordinary life. It's more of returning to the ordinary, natural, authentic life that's not caught in some lie of the past or what society is telling you your life should be about, or your culture or your nationality is telling your life should be about. It gives you the choice of a naturally free and happy life if that's what you feel called to. So there's a kind of calling to participate in satsang, and then there's this natural deepening that happens over time with the right support.
What do you do when you are like tired after the whole day? Which is the thing for you?
I go to sleep. After the whole day, I just go to bed. So basically my normal schedule, and some of this is the influence of Shriyama Karunamai, but it just started naturally happening around Gangaji, is that I would go to bed really early and get up really early. So my normal schedule is to get up very early in the morning, say 4 or 5 a.m. when there's no sound. It's the most silent part of the day. And I spend a lot of time in silence because the teaching is silence, but it's most supportive of the work I'm doing, but it also gives me the most rest and peace is silence. So I begin the day with silence and listening to some of the ancient mantras. The Gayatri mantra is a morning chant of the Vedas. I usually listen to that in the morning. And then I just have a regular day. I work on, satsang and organizing things and that kind of thing. And then I travel. So my whole life is purely devoted to teaching. It's not, I don't enjoy going to bars. I go to restaurants periodically, but I don't even really enjoy that so much. And it's just, this is the call of my life, and this is what my life is surrendered to. So this is not it's not a challenge for me. I'm basically a modern renunciate. So I wear ordinary clothes. I'm not wearing Indian robes or malas or anything like that because I'm American. But my devotion is to the living truth of the heart, and the support for that is silence. The support for that is the mantra, and living a kind of dharmic life where you get up early in the morning and you go to bed early. It's not about partying. It's not about being around alcohol or drugs or anything like that. And certainly I was exposed to that kind of thing when I was young. But the deeper I go into this living truth, the less and less I have no interest in it. What I am interested in is truth, and all my time is devoted to that and to students who are interested in that for their own life. And anytime I have any free time, my attention is with Shriyama Karunamai. So I go to India to be with her. When I can, I go to be with her in the United States. And the reason for that is primarily the support that she offers, the transmission of grace, which is just, there's no words for Amma. There's just no words for it because it's the purest transmission of silence. She spent 11 years in silence in the jungles of Andhra Pradesh, India. And if you've been to India, it's very intense to be in India, period. But to be completely silenced for 10 years is something that the Western mind can't even really comprehend. But someone that is that silent, who was born as an avatar, has a most profound you feel it. It's a visceral experience of love, the most pure divine compassion. So my time is in association with truth inside myself and in association with people who have also given their life to this. And Sri Amma is one of those people, and almost everyone that's in my life is in this conscious conversation, whether it's a student or someone that's really knows me and knows that that's my focus. It's what I've completely given my life to Sri Ramana and also Amma. And the omniscient support that comes into a life that's totally given like that is, there's no words for it. It's a miraculous unfolding that I have no charge over. But my everyday life is get up early, go to bed early, and during the day, just be in service to others. That's it.